What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 24 of my Total Warhammer 3 modded Kroq-Gar campaign. So as we saw last time, Gor-Rok and Itza have joined us in a confederation, so we finally have another Source legendary lord. And Gor-Rok is pretty darn tanky, and I'm as excited to be using him as any of the others. Now we have three. We still have Mazdamundi, Tehenowin, and Xhotl to get. Hopefully they can all survive. It was looking pretty ugly for the Ghost of Pahwaks before, but it looks like they have retaken Mount Athol at least, so they have something of a buffer between them as Kairos. It might be that our elven not-so allies here might have made an opening for Xhotl to retake some of his territories, which worked out fairly well. Now, in terms of what we gotta do this time, first of all, Gor-Rok, you have your work cut out for you. It's a must survive, as there is a ton of enemies around it, and, well, it would be bad to lose it. We are going to, I guess, Luthor Harkon is right there, and he's in raiding stance. Now, if we were to get 4 Blessed Source Warriors, I feel like this might be a big enough army to take Luthor out. That would make it for a nice debut battle. The only issue is the ludicrous expense of these guys, but, you know, at the end of the day, it might be worth it. Screw it. And there we go. Gor-Rok, there's your Source army core. There goes all of our money. We are immediately going to upgrade them as well into the blessing of probably Huan Chi again. It's just better. It's just far, far better than the other two. And it's not like we need flaming attacks in this army, though the missile resistance would be nice. The rest is kind of meh. Let's go Blessed Spawning of Huan Chi again. If nothing else, Stalk is really, really helpful on Source because they're slow and vulnerable to artillery strikes, whereas in Stalk, they can at least ignore it. Then what we'll want to do is spend even more money by getting our traits up and running for Gor-Rok. So, let's see. Reset character skills. It's painful, but it is necessary. Then we're going to go Unrelenting Assault. We want to get, yes, buffs for Saurus. We want to get the Great White Lizard. Regeneration for Gor-Rok. Man, everybody gets regeneration, but Kroq-Gar. Oh, it's unfortunate. Physical resistance 10%, eh? So that's another 10% on top of the one that we get here, which is nice. We could buff you further by giving you cause there. In fact, 1 point, I think, is probably good here. And then this, the first point versus the second point, enemy physical resistance minus 10% enemy armies in region. Oh, that's actually pretty good use of 2 points. We should also get Blessing of Chotek, no, Blessing of Quetzal, rather, for you to buff the reduction of upkeep on Source even further. A Root Marcher and Inspiring Presence are obvious, and Proud Warrior to continue buffing the Source. And there we go. We don't really need to buff Gor-Rok nearly as much, mostly because he's already so strong. So I'm more worried about the stuff that we can get here. I guess we nonetheless will get a Mighty Opponent to buff him slightly. Not sure about that last point, but Unflinching does look pretty worthwhile. Alright, Obedience brings victory as a 50% increase to leadership or size and character or leadership effect, which is not so bad. Then we could give Gor-Rok the Impassable Defenses, or we could start moving through another tier here, or start going through Ancient Cunning towards Geomantic Sustenance. I feel like for 2 points, 10 melee defense is pretty decent, and it makes him basically immune to spells. If not immune, very, very, very resistant to them. Probably gonna do that. And we got 3 turns until Honored Elders for even more reduction on Source upkeep, which is nice. Yeah, alright. Let's go Impassable Defenses. Like so. Alright, that looks pretty good. Hopefully we got some of our money back from the cost of the Source. And away we go, debut time. Let's see, Harkon, what do we have here? Oh, I should have probably tried to give Gor-Rok some items, but whatever. You can have the War Banner, Gor-Rok. Alright, so we got a bunch of animated Hulks, which are, frankly, going to be something of an issue. Fortunately, the enemy doesn't have too much in the way of ranged units, which is going to be a boon to us and our Fire Leech Bolas. They do have a single unit of Deck Droppers, and the handguns are going to be threatening. Boarding crew less so, even with the buffs that Harkon gives them. Ooh, and the Deck Gunner is definitely a threat. Alright, but I imagine that we can pull this off if we're careful. Here we go. Alrighty, here we go. Ooh, I like this shot with the dark skies, huh? It's surprising that the map is light enough for us to actually properly see Gor-Rok here, despite the relatively dark skies once again. Anyway, and debut battle for him. Ooh, I like the scar on the, well, all the scars actually, but yeah, very nice. Anyway, and Gor-Rok versus Luthor Harkon. Now, this should be an interesting fight. Luthor's got 11,000 HP and regeneration on top of that, as well as a ranged attack and pretty good stats. He's at level 19 though, and Gor-Rok is at 17, so at least they might be somewhat evenly matched, though it does depend on how much points Luthor has put into his skill tree. That said, he's on that Terrorgeist, which is probably a disadvantage in a one-on-one against Gor-Rok, I would think. Probably would actually want the Footlord instead, especially if we have support from our other Saurus units and stuff to hit the much larger target. Anyway, obviously we're moving forward. Our Pterodon Riders are moving around in the background to getting ready to hit the enemy range units, though it is actually quite unfortunate that we got a jungle map because the trees interfere with the capabilities of the Fire Leech Bolas. Every shot missed, or every shot that hits the canopy of the trees, is a shot that isn't doing explosive damage. Anyway, the Saurus continue moving forward, getting ready to close the distance and charge shortly. And got to love that hidden. And that Blessing of Huan Chi is just very, very nice to have. Granted, once again, in a fire army, I would obviously take the fire thing, and the lethal poison thing isn't bad. It's just, I feel like the bleed and the stalk is much better. Anyway, here we go. The battle's begun. We are going to start by summoning our Skink Priest avatar via our bound ability near Itza onto the field, just to distract the zombie pirate gunnery mob. And this will allow our Skink Skirmishers from here to close and start blow darting them, hopefully to death. Looks like the enemy is going to start off by getting a Terrorgeist Shriek or Breath, whatever, onto our Blessed Saurus Warriors, and I'm interested to see how much damage this actually does. Oh, wow, actually it's not bad. And it keeps going. Alright, nearly 25% HP damage on a Blessed Saurus unit and 11 units lost. Alright, that's better than I remembered, but I imagine that SFO has made Terrorgeist Shrieks a lot less useless. 4.5k damage at that. Anyway, the Saurus are entering battle against Depth Guard here. Dual Axe variety as well, so they're pretty darn good at mincing infantry. But here comes Gor-Rok himself to support. I think we'll work on the enemy Depth Guard first, mostly because they should be should be fairly fragile, and then we'll switch to the animated hulks afterwards. Obviously in the background we have our units of flyers working on the enemy, and they will be doing some damage, but we do have to be careful. The deck droppers are firing into them, though not having done a lot of damage as yet. They may be a little bit too busy firing on something else, but that may change. Looks like we have managed to kill a zombie pirate gunnery mob bombers here with our skirmishers, which is great. And it looks like now a unit of Depth Guard is being distracted by that Skink Priest avatar. We don't have a lot of mana, so there isn't a lot of casting use for these guys, but even with the lack of mana, we can still use them to tie up enemy range units, artillery, or what have you. Anyway, the Saurus continue to fight this absolutely massive pile of animated hulks, 2 full units of them, though the latter is, or the second one rather, is starting to get in trouble. Gor-Rok is running around in the background. Hopefully we'll club them all to death starting now. And there we go, start knocking them out, Gor-Rok. We are, however, taking damage. Our Saurus are down to about half HP here. A mortar shot coming in, and yeah, they're all dropping to roughly half. Obviously, Luthor Harkon is also floating overhead this entire time, and hitting, ooh, physical resistance increase, or decrease rather, interesting. Kind of the reverse of what Gor-Rok does. He increases the physical resistance with his army, but Luthor Harkon reduces it with his shots. Very interesting. Nonetheless, it looks like his animated hulks are just about done, or at least the first unit is, and we will move on to the second. We continue distracting units here as well, where they have zombie pirate boarding crew, a third unit of animated hulks, all holding, though we did move our skinks as well, our skink cohort, just to try to distract these guys. We obviously don't really care about what happens to the skinks all that much. The last of the units of enemy gunnery mobs or handguns is firing into our flyers, but should be done for shortly, and we did manage to cast a breath on them as well, a wind blast rather. And do still have those deck droppers flying around, but they don't seem to be all that concerning at the time. Anyway, Gor-Rok's moved in, and it looks like Luthor Harkon has decided to actually land and add his blade, not just his pistol, to the fray. That said, perhaps he should have landed when he had a lot more animated hulks to be fighting with, because they're running out of units. And seeing a surprising amount of these animated hulks in various campaigns. Only surprising because I'm not used to seeing this particular unit a lot for whatever reason. I used to find that the AI loved to build rotting Prometheans a lot more than it did animated hulks, but it's doing these guys now, so good for it, I suppose, just for getting a little bit of variety. Anyway, the last of the animated hulks are dropping, and Gor-Rok is actually going to try to chase Luthor Harkon away, who seems to be backing off, and is going to fly up in the sky. Ooh, another Terrorgeist breath right into the middle of our blob of Saurus, just as he got away. A very nice move out of Luthor Harkon there, and took another huge chunk of HP out of the Saurus. That said, Luthor Harkon is the last thing on the field, pretty much, just the last remnants of that boarding crew and this animated Hulk unit. And then we'll be good. Alrighty, Harkon dropping down again to fight Gor-Rok directly. Not so sure that that's such a great idea for him, but, well, let him give it a try. Let's see, the HP is actually about even between the two, but Luthor is in critical binding, and that's not surprising, considering the rest of his army is dead. Oh, our Fire Leech Bow is going to try to hit Luthor, but that means extra shots going to hit our Saurus, and we're going to get our flyers the heck away and tell them to stop firing at the same time. Now Luthor is the only one left on the field, and it's him versus Gor-Rok here. We're actually going to move the rest of the Saurus away, just to allow the two to continue dueling, though our skirmishers can shoot Luthor in the back a little bit. I mean, he did spend quite a while up in the sky shooting us. It's only fair. Alright, how are the HP differences looking? Gor-Rok is out healing by the looks of it. Luthor Harkon, who is now just going to fly overhead. And I was curious to see whether the replay would continue doing this. So, you know how there's a thing where you can't have just flying units because the game won't let you, or the game forces them to land, or else it automatically loses? Well, this is Luthor Harkon floating up in the sky with all his ammunition and refusing to land. And he's just using his ammunition to hurt Gor-Rok, but I'm pretty sure Gor-Rok heals faster than the ammunition and does damage. Or at least on par. And there we go, Luthor Harkon's still floating. I didn't see how long he's been doing this for, but I'm pretty sure much longer than he should be capable of doing. There we go. Finally he's landing, and I think what prompted him to land... Yeah, there we go. Without units on the ground, the enemy is forced to land or end attack or surrender this territory. But yeah, he floated up in the sky for quite a while without being forced to land, which was odd. But anyway, now that he's back on the ground, he has to face Gor-Rok again, and while he was up there, Gor-Rok was able to recharge all of his abilities, so he can pop those. Oh, it looks like he got debuffed with Helm of Discord, but his Shield of Eons pops his armor to plus 60, and the Mace of Ulumak, it gives him a lot more melee attack and damage. Luthor's down to 2000 HP, and he's also reached his healing cap, whereas Gor-Rok has not. Get a few extra shots in there just to try to prompt the Luthor into crumbling away for good. Ah, man, I was trying to find a better angle to light. Actually, the explosions from the Fire Leech Bullets at least light up the two fighters. And 200 HP left, and he's going to lift off yet again. But it looks like the crumbling will be too much, and he will in fact crumbling away. What a little coward. Just floating up there, just trying to shoot Gor-Rok rather than fighting him. And we even obliged by moving all the rest of our units away so that it could be a one-on-one. He had his shot to shatter our army, but alas, he failed. Alrighty, well, a Pyrrhic victory. We certainly took damage there. Our Saurus, as we saw, got at the minimum halved in terms of their HP, mostly by the Terrorgeist Shriek, but I'm sure damage from the Depth Guard as well. Nonetheless, I'm happy that the debut battle for Gor-Rok got him a nice one-on-one duel. Alright, Luthor acting like a little coward was kind of funny there, but it is quite odd that the AI doesn't seem to have to obey the "you have one flying unit left on only flying units on the field, land or lose" thing. He can just fly as much as he wants, or at the very least at more than a minute. I wonder what the timer is supposed to be at. Oh damn. Healing or money? We need both right now pretty badly. We did just use a lot of cash on this, but on the other hand, Gor-Rok is completely surrounded, so who knows, he might get attacked next turn. In fact, it's reasonably likely that he will. In which case, I think we have to kill and eat just in case. Even if we'd like the money. Kill and eat. Alright, now Luthor's gonna survive, but hopefully we can... Wow, he's going pretty far. Can we actually reach him? We can reach him, but we might not be able to return to Itza if we do, and it might not be worth the risk. We have 14% movement remaining. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to let him go. Oh well. Is he actually at war with anybody but us? He is at war with the Huntsmarshal's expedition. Okay, is the Huntsmarshal at war with the Cult of Sotek? They are not. Are they willing to peace out with us for now? Hey. They are not. Minus 15. Okay, well that is unfortunate as well, but what can you do? Alright, Gor-Rok, back to Itza you go. And sit there, heal up a little bit, maybe go into Astromancy stance so that you don't cost us extra money for now, and... I guess while we're here... while we do want to reviv Crystal, 2.5k is a little bit insane right now. You know what, let's build at least one Pterodon Rider with Fire Leech Bolas. We'll see about what else we build after we figure out how much money we currently have left after this turn. Now, in addition to that, we have other alignments that we can use, not just the Blessing of Quan Chi. These Salamander hunting packs can also use alignments, which is nice. So we get Warpaint of Tarantula, giving us weapon strength, stock, and Vanguard deployment. Well, stock is quite useful on these guys. Hit enemy units in the back, rip apart enemy ranged units, as opposed to... ooh. Now, still gotta go Warpaint of Xhotl, I think. The range alone seems extremely worthwhile, because these guys have a relatively short range. It'll make them quite a bit more devastating. And the ammunition does help, as these guys do run out of ammunition. And though the Warpaint of Tarantula does tempt me, I gotta say. I suppose it depends on what kind of army you're in. If you have a main line of like Saurus or something like that, something that can hold for a while, then Warpaint of Tarantula is probably better. But if you're primarily focusing on range stuff, I feel like Warpaint of Xhotl is the way to go instead. So yeah, that's what we're doing in this army, so that's what we're gonna do. Warpaint of Xhotl it is. Alright, now in the meantime, while we're here, we're going to, let's say here, we're gonna transfer you all, and you all, to this army. Alright, Fire Army is well on the way. Oh, you should probably take this one skink cohort. And this army is just here to transfer to Pyroxy. We still need another Fire Drake or Iron Drake. We need more Salamander hunting packs and Ancient Salamanders as well, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, we could also use a couple Fire Leech Bolas in here, because, well, we can use them anywhere, but also Fire Army, so, you know. You could just stop on buy at Camry on the way, though, and he can recruit them from there. Anyway, Koal, Kanoskir. Neither of you can move to hit an enemy, but I believe Chameleon can. Let's check what we have in terms of expenditures that are needed right now. And then, if there's nothing to do there, or once we've done what we do need to do, we'll attack. 2.7k Floating Gardens, yeah, it's too useful not to get. Headhunter's Jungle probably had this upgrade, yeah, but we don't need it right now. Hopefully it'll be alive without our interference. High Place will be trading you away very shortly, in fact probably right now. As long as I don't forget, in Tower of Gorgoth you're the same way. Southern Badlands, Galbaraz, we are only holding you to trade you away. Alrighty, you.
My Slayer Oath would have me kill you.
The High Place, you're willing to give us 5.6k, but funnily enough, it's not so much the money that we want. We want you to join the same wars as Imric is, so that he does not hate you. Right now, we're fighting the Bloody Hands, and oh, wow. You really are afraid of fighting them, huh? Well, that's a crying shame. Alright, fine. What about somebody who's not as strong as the Bloody Hands? What about the Darklands orcs, for example? Where are we? Or what about Clan Pestilence, who we will be fighting? Alright, Clan Pestilence is a lot better. What about Is Crookedman even alive? Mutant Skits are alive. Alright, try Darkland orcs. I'm trying to go for factions that are closer to Imric so that he can have a decent chance of attacking them. And then, I guess Clan Wars. Alright, there we go. That's pretty much all we can do, and we'll take a little bit of money. I don't think he can join any more wars. For example, Mutinous Skits, yeah, -10 now. It's okay. Maybe we'll find another territory to give to him later, for example, out of this area here. But that'll probably not be Kroq-Gar that does it. Somebody else. Kroq-Gar is heading southward now. Alrighty. Propose offer.
Yes.
And there we go. Reputation is going to -12, though not as much as I'd like. We gotta try to give you... get you into more wars with factions that we're fighting, which means we do want to trade you other stuff. Oh, also Clan Angrand. Not ready to do any kind of diplomacy with us? In fact, nobody is right now, other than the Knights of Kalador, but we're not going to do that. Defeated Luthor Harkon, lots of leadership when fighting at sea, and more spell resistance for Gor-Rok. Lovely. In fact, that was a pretty good pickup for him, because now... he has 85% spell resistance. Gor-Rok now might as well be immune to spells, especially as he has other sources as ward saves. So yeah, he's maxed out in terms of the spell resistance, which is nice. Alrighty, looks like no other buildings to build, so possibly just a recruitment, and Gor-Rok, we're gonna go with more Fire Leech Bolas. If you're wondering why I'm building Fire Leech Bolas right now, one, it's because they only cost 1 turn to recruit, whereas Saurus cost 2, and they're just so good. So it's a great emergency unit to fight pretty much anything we could be up against here. And Gor-Rok needs, well, he's gonna need all the units he can get. Also, ooh, before I forget, let's continue through this line to get sequence of Geomantic Healing and a sequence of Marching for that extra movement range that we're gonna want next. Next up, Chameleon. You're going to remove Dicky Dick out of this army, which will, yes, it will allow you to move forward. Now, we probably want to avoid drawing out the forces of all Haikk, because, okay, that might be a little bit much for you. But I think we can attack King Sahut and draw out King Khura as well. Let us make sure we apply our skill points here. Would anything help here? Speed and spell resistance. The speed might be good for our skinks. Ambush success chance, but everything else there is kind of meh. Control, corruption, casualty or punishment rate. Oh, Blessing of Xhotl will give us reduction for salamanders and razordons if we want to get them here. Wait, actually, I don't see razordons. Pterodons, Riprodactyls, salamanders, but not razordons. Cold ones, ancient salamanders, stegodons, bastillodons, coatl, and carnosaur. Huh, so not Dreadsaurians and not Razordons. I wonder why. Curious. Somewhat interesting, but curious. Alrighty, well then, Chameleon, you're gonna go for Lightning Strike because I feel like for Skinks in particular, that may come in handy later on, and then we'll go for Renowned and Feared next turn. Your Skink Chiefs are, however, holding on to their points, so I think we won't be spending those right now. I'm just gonna have to be a little bit careful with them mid-fight. Also, your healing is at 8%, eh? Uh-huh. Okay, so your healing is screwy right now. I think what we need to do is this. Replenish troops here. Now your healing is at 14%. There we go. I really hate the way that works, but, you know, what can you do? Alrighty, 2 Kings Xhotl we go. Let's see if we can't pull this one off. Could really use some more Fire Leech Bolas, but oh well. What are we facing off against here? Now, they do have a unit of Ushabti with Great Bow, which will be a very big threat to our bolas. That said, the first army only has the 1 unit of skeleton archers, so until these guys arrive onto the field, we are fairly safe. The main question here is, do we destroy the first army before the second arrives by rushing them, or do we stand back and let our Fire Leech bolas do the work? I'm not entirely sure on that one. I'll think about it. Actually, no, I won't. Let's do it. Alrighty, Chameleon actually made a little speech this time. I have no idea what he said, but I'm sure it was something along the lines of how he hates the Greybeard's Prospectors. I just have the feeling that that's what he said. Anyway, here we go. We're facing off against 2 full stacks belonging to Arcan's forces, and my answer to the question of whether we attack the first army or wait for the second while our air units do damage is attack the first army. And the reason for that is, even if the enemy does arrive as reinforcements, our units are much faster than most of the enemies are. The Skinks can back off if needed, and well, at least the Chameleon Skinks can run and gun, but all the regular Skinks can back off, especially against the Nehekaran warriors, skeletons, Tomb Guard, whatnot. All those slow units will never catch up. So we're going to take the opportunity to do as much damage to this first army as we can. Precursor weapons flying, but it looks like Chameleon misses trying to get the White King. Huh. Wait, the enemy has the White King here? Was the enemy in the Corrupted Dynasty stance? I wonder. I didn't notice, but I guess it doesn't matter, because either way, it's going to lose that White King fairly fast. It's not going to be very adept at taking on a Carnosaur. Alright, gonna get some bats for help, but we can send in our own help should we desire to, and it's the overwhelming power of the Bastillodon. Looks like the White King goes down, the bats are out, and now we are free to continue attacking the rest of the enemy forces. In the background, our Pterodon riders with Fire Leech bolas are destroying the single enemy unit of skeleton archers that is in this first army, and then afterwards we'll be free to attack whatever it is they please. And what they please to attack is everything in sight. Gonna drop some bombs in the middle of an enemy blob here. And there we go. There was no guarantee that the enemy would blob up better than this at the current time, but who knows? We shall see. Alrighty, and obviously we want to try to focus down the Crypt Ghouls and the Direwolves. Once again, mobility is the most important thing for the Skink army, and crippling the enemy's mobility allows us to make much better use of ours. Another set of bombs coming down from our second unit of Fire Leech bolas. Alas, that is all that we've got in terms of bombs, so we'll have to kill them the old-fashioned way, which is just Fire Leech bola spam. Looks like the enemy doesn't actually really want to charge forward right now, perhaps waiting for the reinforcements, though it is interesting that it did seem to charge a few units forward. I think that was in reaction to our Vanguard deployment more than anything else. Looks like they are going to send their Dire Doggos forward rather than allowing them to be destroyed by the Fire Leech bolas, and here comes Chameleon. There we go, very nice, right into those Dire Doggos. I'm gonna charge through them and allow them to turn back towards the Chameleon Skinks, who are going to shoot them in the back. Though the Carnosaur's animation will make sure that it runs around a lot and is all over the place. Alrighty, and here come a few more units. Our precursor weapon-throwing Chameleon Stalkers charging in at the same time as the Bastillodon with Ark of Sotek. Once again, I do love the matching scales that these guys have going on. And there we go, with those two charges, those dire doggos and their fairly paltry melee defense will be done for. Well done, Basti. You get pets. I don't think I've given pets to any of the Basties so far, at least not the Ark of Sotek ones. Anyway, that seems to have annoyed the enemy sufficiently for them to charge forward, and they're going to charge with an Ushabti and summon, or rather they're going to charge with a Crypt Horror and summon an Ushabti at the same time, plus going to join their Lord into the same attack. Our Skink Chief and our Red Crested Skinks are thus going to be in trouble, and we are going to react to that by sending Chameleon, more Red Crests, the Bastillodon, and basically anything we can to knock this blob out, as it is the most threatening piece or pile of enemies on the field. Over on this side we have Skeleton Warriors and Haikk Warriors who have moved in, but against the Red Crests with Ark of Sotek support, I don't see them winning. And we got some Chameleon Skinks firing as well. You gotta love watching the Skinks fight, they're so adorable. And yet those maces that they have still look pretty devastating. Or I guess those are mauls. What is this? Mesa? Great axe infantry. Those are not axes. Or what? No, those are clubs. Huh. They look like mauls to me, not axes, but I guess they do have sharp ends, but so do some Warhammers, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm inclined to still say that that's more of a maul than it is an axe. What are the others labeled as? Also red... Huh. I guess all the Red Crests are labeled as Great Axe Infantry. Interesting. Interesting. Well, either way, they will make quick work of whatever it is that they're fighting. Hopefully we can say the same for the Red Crests on this side, as the enemy have a lot of monstrous infantry, which are going to be a lot more devastating to us. That said, the Carnosaur is adept, one might say made for killing this sort of thing, and it looks like Chameleon will be cleaning house, dropping 3 in 2 hits, and the rest will crumble away. And there we go, very nice. Alrighty, and now the enemy Lord is here as well, though facing off against both Chameleon and a Basti may not be a good idea. Once again, the overwhelm on these guys is so useful. You gotta love them. I'm really tempted to get a 3rd Ark of Sotek in this army as well. It feels like we could use one more, as the area of the overwhelm is just not high enough. Though then we'd have to figure out what exactly we'd want to replace in favor. Anyway, it looks like the enemy Lord is crumbling away. Or at least the first enemy Lord is crumbling away, and there we go. We'll get knocked out by Chameleon. Alright, some nice shots in this battle. I'm enjoying it very much. Anyway, that was only the beginning, however, because that was just the first enemy army, and the second one will move in. The second one, in fact, is going to be much more elite than the first, has a lot more skeleton archers, 5 of them by the looks of it, a bunch of Tomb Guard, and a Tomb Scorpion, Crypt Horrors, another Lord, Ushabti, nope, 2 units of Crypt Horrors, and 3 units of Crypt Horrors, and Ushabti with Great Bow. And there we go. Speaking of the Ushabti with Great Bow, looks like they're going to be targeting our Basti with Ark of Sotek. We're going to try to move it back before we charge through, while Chameleon and the second Ark of Sotek are going to directly charge this unit of Horrors and this Tomb Scorpion, in the hopes of keeping all of these units out of the fight with our Red Crest. They'd be so threatening to the Red Crests, especially the Tomb Scorpion, which is just impossible to catch. And unlike that one battle a little while ago, we don't have Kowal to kill the Scorpion for us, so we might as well kill it with Chameleon here, who's trying to get through those Crypt Horrors in order to do so. Here comes the Ark of Sotek, though, trying to debuff. Ooh, nice hit to the Scorpion. Love that sync animation. That was glorious. So yeah, the Overwhelm is going to debuff them pretty significantly and will hopefully prevent them from hurting Chameleon too much, as he's already close to half HP, though he is healing. In the meantime, the rest of our army is about ready to charge forward, and they are going to do so. The Crypt Horrors are obviously going to be very much a threat to our Red Crests, but we do have our second Ark of Sotek on this side to hopefully keep the enemy busy and keep them debuffed. We also have all 3 of our Skink Chiefs who are going to be working together to fire upon the enemy Crypt Horrors here, and hopefully we'll do enough damage to increase the speed with which they go down. The horrors, I mean. In the meantime, we've moved around all of our chameleon, skinks, and stalkers. The enemy does have a nice range line for them to take care of, and we're going to move in and try to tie up all the archers and the Ushabti with great bow alike. There we go, chameleon, skinks charging in, or stalkers rather. Man, remember, for those that played the game back in the day when Lizardmen were just released, remember what the roster looked like back before all this stuff was added? Back before Salamanders and Razor Dawns and most of the flyers like Xhotl and the Chameleon Stalkers and such? Man, back then I really didn't like the Lizardmen, and I thought that their roster was not varied enough to enjoy playing at all. They were one of my least liked factions back then. Because, yeah, all their armies became very same-ish. Wasn't enough variety. Oh, I like those point-blank shots from the Ushabti, though. Anyway, Ushabti are starting to crumble away and get ripped apart by the Chameleon Stalkers. They are not strong enough to fight in melee, only decent. Looks like Chameleon, in the meantime, has brought down the Scorpion and the Crypt Horrors together, and the enemy army is now starting to be quite in trouble. The balance of power says it's about 50-50, but I think that's quite a lie. The enemy is just about dead. All of its archers are pretty much tied up or have otherwise stopped firing. The great bows are tied up. The monstrous units are all pretty much gone. And the last one here is being distracted by a Basti, and will probably get shot by the Skink Chiefs until it's done for. Now really all we have to do is finish off the Tomb Guard, which are now getting charged in the back by the Chameleon Stalkers, who have finished off their archer friends. And then we can look towards killing the enemy lord. In fact, the entire army is crumbling away, and it just went from 50-50 balance of power to 100% in our favor within a couple of seconds. And there we go, looks like Chameleon's about to knock out a second lord. And down goes the Tomb King. Very, very nice. And now it's only the remnants of the Tomb Guard remaining, fighting in a nice little circle against the Red Crests. But crumbling away even as they do. And they will all crumble away just as Chameleon gets here, rather than face off against him, as I'm sure they know that they would fail. Well done, buddy. And there we go. You're probably wondering why the battle is not ending. In fact, all the enemy units are dead. Enemy troop count is at 0 out of 2755, whereas our units are fine. So what the heck is the deal? I don't know. I figured, hey, maybe there's a unit in stock somewhere, somehow, even though it says 0, so I did try to send our army around to look for him, as we can see. And it ain't helping. Which unfortunately means it looks like this particular battle is bugged. The only option was to either concede the battle or to withdraw, and I wasn't entirely sure what would happen if I decided to go escape and concede, so I decided to tell the entire army to withdraw off the field against 0 enemies. Kind of silly, but I guess, okay. Honestly, that's a little bit annoying, but you know, bugs are fairly rare. Or at least this type of bug is fairly rare. There are other bugs not so much. A Pyrrhic victory for the followers of Nagash. How do you get a victory when you have no units surviving? I'm not sure, but oh well. At the end of the day, what matters most is both of these armies are destroyed and our army is just fine, even if we don't get the rewards. Alright, so I don't know if the replay is going to reflect this, but the game decided to bug out, and we had killed every single unit on the field, 2756, 2756, and the battle just would not end. Kinda ran around with the army looking for the enemy there, and didn't find anything either, and yeah, I guess it was just a bug. I don't think I ever recall encountering that one before, and I have many an hour in this game, so that's kind of odd. The unfortunate aspect of this is it basically screws us out of a bunch of alignments and healing and money for the victory, and that all of that would have probably been fairly considerable, so kind of unfortunate. So what's going to happen here? You're going to back off, and... Are you kidding me? You lose the and you lose the Wailing Banner. That is so rude, game. Just so rude. Can we at least get back to our own territory? No, we cannot. Okay, well then I guess we're gonna go into encamp stance. I'm gonna heal a little bit here. These guys might attack us again, but I don't think this army can attack by itself now that it's randomly damaged and couldn't heal because of that. Kind of thrown an artificial wrench into the situation. Oh well, not a big deal. We're gonna have to just advance. Also, before I forget, recovered tablet of knowledge has to go to you now, because you're gonna be the one recruiting. Whereas Kowal is going to advance, at least for a little bit. We'll probably send him to try to acquire Vermin Flail as well, but for now he can go this way, and I want to keep our armies together, so you're gonna go to the same place that Kowal is gonna go, which is right there, so that if somebody gets attacked, they can protect each other. Alright, like so, and then Durandar, you're going to join Kanoskir for now, until we possibly replace you. Dicky Dick, is now the time to replace you, because we were looking at getting the Skink Master and the Skink Army instead. You know what? It is, but, you know, the game screwed us out of money, so we can't afford it. Alright, I guess it'll be Dicky Dick for now, then. And what? Why oh, because you left this army, you can't rejoin the army in the same turn. Man. That is a real shame. Hey, you're level 10 though, that's not such a shame. What we need out of here is, so we got Master Scout, we got Impressive Crest, we got not Hardy Spawning, but yes, Efficient Management, because we're recruiting stuff, and the rest we don't care as much about. Then we can start moving through Replenish Troops and Huan Chi's Blessing to start buffing you up. I guess we could also get you Guerrilla Fighter in stock, but it's not super necessary right now. Yeah, just get speed and start moving through Imposing Stature to buff the Skinks up. You are not at that level yet. You are only missing Efficient Management, but you can... I was about to say you can get it right now. The problem is then you're gonna have less replenished troops. Oh wait, you were at 17, but yeah, if we apply a skill point... Okay, I guess we just won't apply the skill point then, unless... Now, you're at 2. Is anybody at 3 right now? Yeah, you're at 3, so I'd rather keep this... wait. Huh, okay, that kind of screwed it over anyway. Damn it, game. Why must you be like this? Alrighty, let's add replenished troops, and I was hoping to get Efficient Management to get a little bit of extra healing. Alright, well, there's not much we can do about all that, though we did just reduce our recruitment costs very slightly. It's only 5%, mind you. But nonetheless, this should save us some money, shouldn't it? A little bit. There we go. Alrighty. Well, with that, unfortunately, we are out of time, and I am going to have to call the episode here. Chameleon is probably upset that despite that being a win, the game decided it was a loss, but oh well. I'm upset for him as well. Next time, we advance towards Al-Haikk with all 3 armies. We continue recruiting with Furok to get our fire army up and running, which is proceeding apace. And in 4 turns, we will have access to the ancient salamanders and salamanders we need to round out the army and send them towards Roxy. And then I guess we'll move towards Skarsnik as well to destroy him for good. And next turn, or actually this turn, because you guys can move. Lovely. So stay tuned for all that. Don't forget to leave a like and comment. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.